For decades, being a fan of the Chicago Bears meant bracing yourself for impact. It meant sitting on the edge of your seat, not out of excitement, but out of a familiar, lingering anxiety. We became experts at calculating draft order by November. We became professors in the art of coping, crossing our fingers, and praying that our beloved monsters of the Midway could somehow scratch and claw their way to a handful of wins just to keep the season respectable. But I need you to take a deep breath, look around, and realize where we are standing right now. Those days are officially over. The era of playing small, of hoping for mediocrity, and acting like survivors in a league that rewards predators is dead and buried. We are stepping into a completely different reality. It is a bolder era. It is a completely fearless era. And honestly, it is an era that should terrify every single defensive coordinator in the National Football League. At the very center of this massive cultural earthquake is a young man who has captured the imagination of the entire football world. Caleb Williams. Right now, the national media is buzzing so loudly about this kid that even the most stubborn critics and the loudest doubters are finding it completely impossible to drown out the noise. We are no longer talking about hope. We are talking about reality. We are talking about genuine MVP conversations. We are talking about a young quarterback ascending to elite, untouchable status before our very eyes. The Chicago Bears have completely flipped the script on generations of football history, redefining what this legendary franchise can actually be. So settle in, get comfortable, and wrap your mind around what is about to unfold. Today, right here on Chicago Bears Voice, we are taking an exhaustive, deep dive into everything you need to know as we march into the highly anticipated 2026 NFL season. We are breaking down the MVP predictions, the hidden superstars ready to break out, the bold offensive expectations, and a rookie center who might just hold the absolute key to this entire championship puzzle. When you look back at how this offseason has developed, there is a distinct moment where the conversation shifted from local hype to national dominance. It happened when Kay Adams, the host of the Up and Adams show, didn't just whisper about Caleb Williams, she shouted it to the world. She went on the record and declared out loud what many of us in Chicago have been feeling deep in our chests for months. Caleb Williams is not just a good young player. He is a legitimate, dangerous, dark horse MVP candidate. She did not say it to grab headlines or clear the air. She said it with absolute, unwavering conviction. She talked about his aura, that undeniable magnetic presence that fills a room and commands a huddle the second he steps onto the grass. She highlighted the explosive chemistry building behind closed doors, the skyrocketing confidence, and the sheer fact that he was out on the field working absolute miracles during his last campaign. Everything filtering out of Hollis Hall this offseason tells the exact same story. Caleb is more comfortable, he is more dialed in, and he is infinitely more dangerous than he has ever been, under the brilliant guidance of head coach Ben Johnson. And then, Kay Adams dropped the hammer, pointing directly to his plus 1,500 MVP odds. She is completely all in, and frankly, the rest of the football world is scrambling to catch up. Think about how surreal that feels for a moment. When a major national media personality starts using terms like most valuable player and Chicago Bears quarterback in the exact same sentence, it is more than just a headline. It is a complete shock to the system. For generations, our offseason conversations were defined by salary cap space, draft lottery positioning, and calculating exactly how many painful losses we could tolerate before the television became unwatchable. Now, we are living in a universe where the smartest minds in football are publicly betting on our quarterback to hoist the most prestigious individual trophy in the entire sport. That is not a minor adjustment. That is an absolute shift in the tectonic plates of this sport. But let us have some real talk here. Because trophies are not handed out because of great television segments in June. Kay Adams can sing Caleb's praises all day long, and the sports networks can run his highlights on a loop from now until autumn, but none of it matters if the Chicago Bears do not win football games. That is the exact reality that should have your blood pumping and your heart racing. Because an MVP conversation is actually a code. It is a signal that the outside world finally believes this team is built to win at the highest level. You do not take home an MVP award by throwing for thousands of yards on a losing team that watches the playoffs from the couch. It has never worked that way. MVP quarterbacks belong to dominant organizations. They belong to teams that are making terrifying noise in the freezing cold of January. So when the national media looks at Caleb and sees an MVP, what they are really saying is that they believe the Chicago Bears are about to become an absolute powerhouse in the NFC. To build a documentary like this, to dig through the film, analyze the patterns, and bring you the raw, unfiltered truth about our Bears, takes an incredible amount of sleepless nights, dedication, and pure hard work. We pour our hearts into every single video on this channel because we believe this fan base deserves the absolute best coverage on the internet. We are on a massive mission right now to hit 2,000 subscribers, and we truly cannot get there without you. If you can feel the passion we put into this work, and if you love this team as much as we do, please take a quick second right now to hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, share this video with every Bears fan you know, and drop a comment below. Every single subscription is a massive wave of motivation for us to keep pushing, keep creating, and keep building this incredible community together. Let us show the world how loud the Chicago faithful can truly be. Now, if you want to understand how Caleb Williams takes that legendary leap into true greatness, you have to look closely at the specific challenge laid down by Ben Johnson. The head coach has made it an absolute priority, challenging his young quarterback to drastically clean up his completion percentage when you go back and honestly evaluate the game tape from last season. The numbers reveal a fascinating story. If you strip away the heartbreaking dropped passes from his wideouts, and if you eliminate those short, simple throws that somehow slip through the cracks and hit the turf, you suddenly discover a quarterback whose true baseline should have been well over 100 passing yards. The beauty of Caleb's game is that he protects the football with his life. He simply does not turn it over. When the pocket completely disintegrates and chaos breaks loose, he transforms into a magician, engineering breathtaking comebacks that this franchise had absolutely no business winning. He dragged this team to 11 victories, secured a monumental playoff win. And he did all of that while still leaving an immense amount of yards and points out on the field. Imagine what happens when he cleans up those minor details. If he secures the easy throws and lets his playmakers catch what is catchable, we are no longer talking about a dark horse candidate. We are talking about the undisputed frontrunner for the crown. The pure talent has never been a question. It is the mastery of the fine print where legendary status is born, and every single whisper out of the practice facility indicates that the leap is happening right now. Of course, as thrilling as the Caleb Williams narrative is, this journey is not a solo act. Ben Johnson is stepping directly into a massive spotlight of his own, and he welcomes it. Year one of his leadership gave this fan base a taste of something we had been starving for: a division championship, a hard-fought playoff victory, and a profound, genuine sense that the entire organization was finally moving in the right direction. But year two is where good coaches separate themselves from the absolute legends. Year two is where we find out if the foundation we built is permanent or if we just caught lightning in a bottle. Ben Johnson has been incredibly clear about his expectations. He believes in this roster, he believes entirely in his quarterback, and he firmly believes that the ceiling for this team is significantly higher than anything they put on display last year. Now, the talking is over, and he has to orchestrate that reality on the gridiron. On the other side of the ball, Dennis Allen is carrying an equally heavy burden as he guides the defense into the new season. The front office did not go out and break the bank for an expensive superstar pass rusher. Instead, they brought in Jordan Vandenberg and placed a massive high-stakes bet on Austin Booker to make a dramatic sophomore jump. Where they did invest heavily, however, was in the secondary. By bringing in and developing pieces like Kobe Bryant, Devin Bush, Dylan Thieneman, and Keshawn Elliott, they have built a defensive backfield designed to suffocate modern passing attacks. If Dennis Allen can mold these pieces together the way he has envisioned on his chalkboard, this defense has a real, tangible chance to climb right into the middle of the NFL rankings. While landing in the 14th to 16th spot might not sound like defensive dominance on paper, you have to remember where we came from. For a unit that spent significant stretches of last year buried near the absolute bottom of the league, climbing into that tier would represent a monumental, franchise-altering step forward. Dennis Allen knows exactly where the bar is set. The real test is whether his group has the discipline to clear it. But the ultimate catalyst for this defensive redemption story might not come from a fresh face or a shiny new signing. It rests entirely on the shoulders of two players who were already here, but who simply could not catch a break with the injury bug last year. Jaylon Johnson and Kyler Gordon. When those two young men are healthy, energized, and locked into the game plan, the entire identity of the Chicago Bears defense undergoes a radical transformation. Jaylon Johnson is that rare, elite lockdown corner who can completely erase an opponent's best receiver on the outside, rendering an entire half of the field useless. Meanwhile, Kyler Gordon operating out of the nickel position is one of the most dangerous, versatile chess pieces in football, giving Dennis Allen the absolute freedom to draw up exotic pressures and confusing coverages. Last season, Chicago rarely had the luxury of seeing both of these stars on the field together at full strength for any meaningful stretch of time. And our defensive ceiling remained frustratingly low because of it. If this is the year both guys can stay on the turf and give us a full, healthy season, this defense will transform into a unit that opposing offensive coordinators will actively dread preparing for. Everything truly hinges on their health. Looking over at the offensive skill positions, things get incredibly fascinating. DJ Moore is no longer here, and no matter how optimistic you want to be, losing a weapon of his caliber is a heavy blow. He was the absolute definition of a security blanket. When the game was on the line and a play had to be made, you called his number, and he delivered with absolute certainty. His numbers didn't always dominate the morning talk shows, but his steady, calming presence for a young quarterback in high-pressure moments was completely priceless. Now, a massive void has been left behind, and someone has to step into the fire. The eyes of the entire city are fixed on three distinct targets: Luther Burden, Rome Odunze, and the steady presence of Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland at the tight end spot, who are all being called upon to provide that missing consistency. Ben Johnson himself publicly labeled Loveland as the most consistent, dependable offensive weapon on this entire roster. He led the Bears in receptions and receiving yards last season, and there is a very legitimate path for him to eclipse 1,000 receiving yards this season if Caleb can continue to sharpen those short and intermediate throws. A 1,000-yard tight end is an absolute nightmare for defensive coordinators, a matchup problem that simply cannot be ignored. Simultaneously, Luther Burden showed incredible, undeniable maturity as his rookie season progressed. Once the coaching staff trusted him with a heavier workload, he began flashing the terrifying athleticism that made fans wonder why it took so long to unleash him in the first place. He possesses all the traits to become Caleb's favorite target: a big, physically imposing receiver who can win battles at every single tier of the field. And then there is Rome Odunze. He burst onto the scene like a house on fire last year before a series of nagging injuries and inconsistent rhythms slowed his incredible momentum. Those early weeks showed the entire world what his absolute ceiling looks like. Now comes the defining moment of his young career, Was that early explosion just a flash in the pan, or was it a true preview of a superstar? This fanbase needs Rome Odunze to answer that question with a dominant, healthy, and completely uninterrupted campaign. We also have to celebrate the absolute strength of our running back room. Last year, Chicago boasted one of the most beautifully balanced and explosive backfields in the entire league, with DeAndre Swift and Khalil Herbert bringing two completely different, devastating styles to the field. The projections for their combined output this season are hovering around 1,800 rushing yards. While some critics might call that estimate conservative, it is a highly realistic reflection of an offense that loves to share the wealth and keep defenses guessing. Make no mistake about it, this team is going to run the football. They are going to pound the rock early, they are going to pound it often, and they are going to use that relentless ground attack to set up devastating play-action opportunities that will make Caleb Williams' life incredibly easy. Never sleep on the depth of this backfield, because it is an absolute weapon. But if there is one name that you need to tattoo into your mind before kickoff, it is Logan Jones, a rookie center who ESPN draft analyst Jordan Reed officially named as one of the 5 most underrated rookies in the entire class. Let us break down why this matters so deeply. Drew Dalman was a magnificent, stabilizing anchor for our offensive line for a long time. Losing him created a massive, terrifying question mark at the center position, which is arguably the most critical spot on the entire line. The center is the only player who handles the football on every single offensive play. They are the communicator, the protector, the navigator, and the literal heartbeat of the front 5. When your center is shaking, the entire offense suffocates. When that position is locked down, everything flows like water. The front office brought in an experienced veteran in Garrett Bradbury to establish a reliable high floor in the short term. He is a proven professional who can step in immediately and hold the line together. But Logan Jones is the undeniable future of this franchise, and the expectation is that at some point this year, the rookie is going to snatch that starting job and never look back. To be named a top 5 underrated rookie by national analysts does not happen by accident. This young man is built differently. If his development mirrors his incredible draft profile, the Chicago Bears have quietly solved their center position for the next decade. That is not baseless hype. That is elite, long-term organizational planning. Whether Bradbury starts week 1 while Jones refines his technique, or whether the rookie completely dominates training camp and forces the coaching staff's hand immediately, the ultimate trajectory is exactly the same. Logan Jones is the future anchor of this line, and the faster he gets comfortable, the more dangerous this offense becomes. When you look at the mainstream passing projections for Caleb Williams, sitting right around 3,800 yards, you realize just how flawed the math really is. That number completely ignores the steady improvement in completion percentage that Ben Johnson is extracting from him. It fails to account for the fact that this receiving core, even with the departure of DJ Moore, is absolutely loaded with dynamic weapons at every position. It completely discounts the massive breakout potential of our tight end room and ignores what happens when Caleb simply stops leaving easy money on the table. A realistic, educated expectation for Caleb Williams should be comfortably north of 4,000 passing yards, with a touchdown-to-interception ratio that will leave the skeptics completely silent. This is a quarterback entering a crucial phase of his development, fully immersed in his 2nd consecutive year under the exact same system and coaching staff, surrounded by an elite supporting cast, and carrying a chip on his shoulder the size of the Chicago skyline. That combination does not lead to regression. It leads to an absolute explosion. The beautiful, overriding truth underneath all of these individual statistics and off-season debates is wonderfully simple. The Chicago Bears are no longer an organization that walks into a football season merely hoping to be competitive. We walk into stadiums expecting to dominate. We expect to control the division. We expect our quarterback to be firmly entrenched in the MVP conversation. That mental transformation, that complete overhaul of the culture inside the building is absolutely everything. It is the defining difference between a fragile team that falls apart the second adversity strikes and a resilient, championship-caliber squad that fights through the storm and keeps stacking victories. It was not that long ago that we were collectively counting losses instead of wins, and arguing about draft positioning rather than visualizing playoff runs. The fact that we have crossed over to the promised land and that we are here together discussing our quarterback potentially winning the highest individual honor in professional football is something we should celebrate every single day. The road ahead will be brutal, the schedule is unforgiving, and injuries will inevitably test our depth. But this roster possesses the talent, the coaching staff has the vision, the locker room has the culture, and this city has the momentum to make this a year that we will tell our grandchildren about. This has been an absolute journey, Bears Nation. From Caleb Williams chasing legendary MVP status to Ben Johnson demanding absolute perfection, Dennis Allen's defense preparing to shock the world, our young receivers stepping boldly into the light, and Logan Jones preparing to anchor our future. The identity of what it means to wear the navy and orange has changed forever. As we bring this documentary to a close, I want to remind you once again of the immense amount of hard work, passion, and endless hours we pour into this channel to bring you the highest quality stories possible. We do it all for the greatest fan base on earth. Please, if you haven't already, take a moment right now to hit that subscribe button, leave a massive like on this video, share it with your crew, and leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Can Caleb Williams truly capture the MVP trophy this year? What is your exact prediction for his passing yards? And will Logan Jones win that starting center job before the opener? I read every single comment you write. Thank you for the incredible support. Every single subscription truly motivates us to keep going. This is Chicago Bears Voice, standing strong with the greatest community in football. Bear down, stay locked in, and I will see you in the very next one.